Good afternoon, Mr. Turdush, and thank you for joining us. The Tribunal has received your report, and we thank you for coming back again to answer the questions. As you know, there are 3 areas that the questions have been raised, and you have kindly responded to that. The first area would be about the family planning. Would you please tell the Tribunal briefly how the pregnant women in Xinjiang get around the family planning of the central government in China?
Thank you very much for having me again. Actually, I had a presentation and forget about it. So the family planning policy run in East Turkistan. Actually, I would like to say first, family planning policy against Uyghur women should not be part of China's national family planning policy because East Turkestan is not part of China. It was colonized country, and the Uyghur population are very small. No need to population control, and also they relaxed the family planning policy to Han Chinese right now, but they're strictly implementing to Uyghurs. I have interviewed 8 women about this family planning policy, but I did not directly interview the family planning workers. So my findings based on, I interviewed only 2 family planning workers, but the rest of them, 8 of them is women who directly interact with those family planning workers. And based on their conversation, I find out that how these family planning workers work there and how their power is implemented over there. So actually the family planning policy was strictly implemented because that policy comes from the top, the Communist Party Politburo, and so they have to implement this policy. These, if these workers do not implement.
Sorry, probably a little slower, possibly a little louder. It's not you, I'm sure it's the machinery. And maybe it's getting late in the day, so if you could just treat us a bit slower.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so family planning workers, they don't have, actually, they have utmost power. That power comes from their responsibility and duty given by the Chinese Communist Party. If they don't implement that policy, they might end up prison and get heavy punishment. It was listed in their policy documents. So these family planning workers, and the system didn't give any loopholes too. And every village level, there is a family planning workers, and there is a county level family planning workers, and the provincial level family planning workers. Family planning workers work in the villages. They have to report to the county, and the county has to report to the provincial level. But every 3 months, county level and provincial level officers can come to check the medical, come and proceed the medical check for the women in villages. So if they find out any woman was hiding or pregnancy, so that the village family planning workers has the responsible. So that's why they cannot hide those women's pregnancy or illegal pregnancy. I interviewed 8 women, how they hide their children. Most of them, I think 7 of them, they tried to move to other city, and they move to other city or other areas and hide their children, the so-called illegal children or extra children when they become pregnant. But they escape from abortion. And only one of them hid her own basement and didn't show up, didn't go outside front of her door just 1 year until delivered the baby, and she gave bribe to the village family planning worker, and she managed to deliver this baby. So the family planning workers cannot, in the village family planning workers, even you pay the bribe, they can't help these women. Only these women move to other city, other places, because they don't have hulko in other cities, and that place, when they migrated, family planning workers check them based on the residential paper called hulko. So based on that hulko, they check when they find a woman came from other city, and she doesn't have hukou in this city, so they're gonna contact with her hometown and force her to go back. But the woman gave her a lot of money. Maybe the family planning worker want to help her. She doesn't notify her to her boss, because anyway, her boss doesn't know, because she doesn't have hukou in that city. So that's how they hide. But it's very difficult too, because those family planning workers, most of them are very loyal to Chinese Communist Party. Many of them, they know the genocidal outcome of these family planning policy and impact on the Uyghurs' life. And some of them, they know that it is harmful for the baby and the woman, but they don't know the genocidal effect. And some of them just afraid of their losing their job. These conclusion, I got it not directly interview from the family planning workers, but I only interviewed 2 family planning workers. And those 8 women that I have interviewed constantly interact with these family planning workers, and they have a lot of conversation between them. So through this conversation, I found that most of the family planning workers are very, very loyal to Chinese Communist Party, and even they knowledgeable with the genocidal impact. They still want to implement this policy, and some of them, they're just afraid of losing a job. That's how it works.
That you have covered comes from your original report, which was submitted to the tribunal in June on genocide in East Turkistan. You explained there the process of dehumanization of the Uyghurs through using terms and remarks that were derogatory to them and created a negative impact on them. Can you now please explain further the remarks that you have mentioned in your report?
What kind of remarks? Excuse me, sorry. I didn't.
Derogatory remarks that you have in the second part of your report.
There is a kill the weeds. The Chinese officials say kill the weeds, spray the chemicals to kill the weeds. That was said by one of the Han Chinese official, and Radio Free Asia find out, and when they interviewed chief of the Chasa town, I think, in Kashgar, and then he said that means the chemical to kill the weeds, definitely dehumanizing the Uyghurs. When the people were dehumanized, it's easy to kill them, right? We all know that. So it's directly related to their special intent, even though this person might be not high-level official, but he is the official, that Han Chinese person. So we don't know his name, but the other chief, the Uyghur official told RFA. But even though this guy is not high-level official, but still he represents the Chinese Communist Party, and he's knowledgeable about this policy. So there is an indirect intent too. And another derogatory words is the communist Xinjiang Communist Party Youth League. They recorded manifesto in kind of saloon in social media. They say that the Islam is infectious disease, religious extremism and the terrorism is infectious disease, is like a cancerous tumor, malignant tumor. It has to be cured in re-education hospital. So even though they have referred this words like an infectious disease or cancerous tumor referred to directly to the religious extremism and the terrorism, but it's implicitly referred entire Uyghur population's religious beliefs and identity have seen as cancerous tumor, because they have attacked entire Uyghur population's identity. And the 2 to 3 million Uyghurs are incarcerated with the excuse of having cancerous tumor. So Chinese government's target here is not only civilians who has extremism or terrorism. Their target is whole national group in East Turkistan, because they have systematically incarcerated Uyghurs and other Turks. And another thing I can link it that because this youth league again is the member of the Chinese Communist Party, part of the Chinese Communist Party, and their words represent Chinese Communist Party's plan and instructions. Second,
faster and faster. And our ability to take it in is getting slower and slower.
Okay, so the Youth League is part of Chinese Communist Party. So whatever they say is represent the Chinese Communist Party's instructions, intentions, and their decisions, and to them anyway. So-called re-education camps is nothing looks like what they say, that educate people, torture. They say it's a re-education hospital, right? It's nothing looks like school or re-education hospital like that. It is torturing the people. You have a lot of testimony, and that's the place that rape and the killing exist in that so-called re-education camp. So it is prison-style internment camps and or concentration camps. And this youth league is representing Chinese Communist Party's decision and intention. So whatever they say, this is cancerous tumor, that's mean this is not only, it's in their words, like they refer to extremism and religious extremism and the terrorism, but it's implicitly explain that they attacking the entire Uyghur population's religious identity and beliefs and their value. So this, because we know that they already incarcerated because of that 2 to 3 million Uyghurs and other Turkic nation. So here they directly select the national group of Uyghurs, national group of East Turkistan, not randomly selected civilians because of they have religious extremism or terrorism ideology. So we can see here their intent that they want to attack the Uyghurs or destroy the Uyghurs or other Turkic population here in whole or in part. So that's how I link it, their words. This is one of the derogatory words. And another words I remember that Chinese consulate said, I mentioned it in last time too, he said, we would like to make them normal people. So for them, in US consulate, in US embassy, the Chinese consulate say that for them, the Uyghurs are not the human then, normal people, not the human then. So this is another dehumanization to facilitate to killing and the torture Uyghurs. So it revealed the intention, actually, special intention of the high level officials. And also there is Xi Jinping also said 2014, he said absolute no mercy. It was cited in New York Times, and he said absolute no mercy. That's mean it's very vague term. This term can be taken in any way. They can extend in anything, torture, killing, rape, anything. So it was the green light open from the high level official to the other officials who's implementing those policies that you can do anything to these people. So it is aligned with one of the testimony that when I interviewed the Tursunay Ziauddin and another lady too, both of them said, and the guards in the concentration camp told them, even we kill you, nobody ask, nobody care, so behave. They said like that. So that's mean Xi Jinping already opened the green light. He has the intention to do so. This is not only not the abrupt decision that he gave order before he take the action. It was said in 2014, and that their policy was implemented in starting 2017, fully implemented. This was his words. This order was aligned with their planned policies, so it reveals his special intent. And 2017, Chen Changguo also said, round up who should be round up. Who should be is referred to again the terrorists. Then why they round up as 3 million Uyghurs? Is all Uyghurs are terrorists then? For them, they labeled Uyghurs as a terrorist. This is another derogatory words too. So round up who should be.
Thank you, Ms. Turdush. I'm sorry to cut you off. We are running short of time. I have one more question, and then my colleague, Dr. Zamit Bordo, has one more question. My question relates to the third part of your report on the images and information of the Uyghur children that were separated. You have given 62 pictures and details of 62 children who were taken away. As you requested, this will not be published on our website, so it will be excluded from part of your report. Can you please tell me that whether there had been a study as to the psychological effect that these children had suffered as a result of this separation? Has there been any such studies that empirically approach these children or their members of family to find out what happens to these children after this separation?
I am currently doing research about that. It was the mental and the physical harm caused to these children are severe. I interviewed in the report Rukiye. She is in East Turkistan. I got her consent so we can talk about her story. Her children was released recently, 2021. 21, her children, 4 children was taken to the concentration camps and her children was released. After they were released, she told me that they don't want to talk to her much. They were so quiet and they always scared, even afraid of their own mom. Whenever they do something, they just feel shocked and they right away, they were thinking, did I do something wrong? Like a feeling like that, look at their mother, look at the people, and they don't want to speak in Uyghur. Her eldest one is 14 right now. When she was taken to the concentration camp, she was 11. She fully speak Uyghur, and 3 years, how could she totally forgot Uyghur? Maybe she was so afraid, doesn't want to speak Uyghur or Uyghur language, or she really forget Uyghur language, we don't know, but she was so afraid she doesn't speak Uyghur. And the youngest one is forget the Uyghur language and they don't speak. They're afraid of their mother, and her mother said their behavior and they're so changed. But she can't talk much because she is from East Turkistan and I'm here. It's for her safety. We speak in coding language, so it's not easy to communicate to very detail. But that's the one of the case that I found. And there is another cases that those kids were. We have another cases that I didn't directly interview this, but the secondary information, the kid was bring it to the Turkey because he has a Turkish passport, I think. But he doesn't, he was afraid to, he was the same thing. He refused, 3 months he didn't speak Uyghur, doesn't want answer to anybody, didn't want to talk to anybody. The kids become like that. And I have some video, the documents that I have collected. The girl on the video, I think I have submitted to you the link, it's in the Twitter I posted. The girl said, if I speak Uyghur, what if the Chinese teacher asks her, what is your name? Can you tell me Uyghur? No, I don't want to say my name on Uyghur. It's weird. I don't want to say that. Just to say it, even it's weird. And she said, what if you beat me, you hit me, if teacher hit me if I say it? And she doesn't want to talk about that. And she was afraid, and they said, okay, we don't do anything, just to say it. And then at the end she said her brother's name, but she said, oh, that's so weird. So that's mean they teaching them the Uyghur language is very weird, the bad language maybe. So kids are behavior were totally or changed. And a lot of other videos I collected, the kids were not look healthy. And one of the video, the Chinese teacher tried to speak to her, talking to her, but that girl even gave it to her candy, but that girl just like a shock, traumatized. It's looking at the one place and doesn't move her eyes. And I saw other kids' videos too posted by the Chinese workers, and it was those videos, the kids are all the time are crying. Some of them just sitting on the bed waiting for their mommy to come back to pick them, doesn't want to sleep. And
thank you.
I think it's time for Professor Osler's.
So we are running. Dr. Zamit Borda has one short question.
A very short question with a very short answer, please. Relating to the section of your report to derogatory language. And it's just, and you mentioned how this derogatory language has been sourced to official sources. And just very briefly, I mean, if one were to try to deconstruct those terms used, so for example, weeds and a malignant tumor. If one went to deconstruct that language, would you say, is that terms relating to reformation or assimilation, or is that language relating to destruction of those particular?
Definitely related to destruction, because it's explained their special intent. When human become weeds, you can easily kill them, you can easily destroy them. What we're gonna do, mankind, with the weeds? We destroy them, right? So the Uyghur people become weeds, they want to destroy. The intention is comes after, like right away to destruction. That's not the assimilation. Even
Thank you. I think that's enough. Well, I'll pass you to the panel. Thank you very much.
Ms. Turdush, very simple proposition is that the shorter the question and answers, the more we will get into the remaining short period of time. I'm sure you'll want to help us. Professor Osler.
Thank you, Ms. Turdush. I would like to ask one question about each of the three sections, and relating to the family planning workers and the women you have interviewed. You've given us some information about how they've hidden. I would like to ask whether these 8 interviews with women revealed anything about how these women managed to continue hiding and educating their children later as they grow up. You've told us about the babies and the bribing and so on. Whether you have any information from those interviews on how they managed the education of their children without papers.
Until 2015, they could not send these children to the school or help anything. They couldn't do anything because these children were considered as illegal. And after the children was born, they pay heavy fine. And the fine is different based on their income. 10% in somewhere, 5% in somewhere, it's like that. And then even they pay the heavy fine, these kids were not allowed to go to school or don't do anything. But in 2015, China started to give hukou to the black illegal children. They say black hukou, black kids. I don't remember right now, sorry. So they start to give hukou, and the people were happy even before they cannot register them. They cannot get hukou, right? It's impossible, even they paid fine. And then in 2015, and everywhere in China, Chinese government start to give hukou, allow them to register. And after they register, they can go to school, but people start to register their kids, and the Chinese government got a lot of data, who's illegal, who's not, so they have the data, right? Then in 2017, they start to arrest all of the kids, including, for example, in one family, the 4 kids, one of them is illegal, they took 4 of them. Even it's 3 is illegal, and one of them is illegal.
Okay, thank you. My second question relates to the derogatory language. I think am I right in thinking that you are arguing that this dehumanizing language is both symbolic and that it has an actual direct impact on the people who are experiencing it, and also on the wider population who are using it?
Yes.
Okay. And so this kind of language is a kind of weaponizing of language.
Yes, because the absolute no mercy is green light for these languages, and whenever they do. And so, for example, I would like to give just one example quickly, if we have time. When I interviewed Zumrat Dawood, when she came to the camp, that 2 of the workers come to the camp, spray the chemicals, kind of chemical liquid to the women, the bunch of women from over the uniform, prison uniform, and these women were jumping with immense pain and screaming. And Zumrat was shocked and what's happening, and somebody told her that they are disinfecting these women because they have they have a skin disease because of the hygienic problems. So that's why, and I was thinking how it's very coincidence with these words, what they say, or how come they're doing this, and it's very interesting, and that they're taking really these people as in weeds or what, you know.
Right, so they're echoing the language and then acting on the language. Okay, my third question relates to the children who are permanently separated from their parents, and I have 2 parts. So you're actually dealing with 62 missing children, and we're talking about, therefore, 62 family tragedies. But we're also are you also arguing here that we're talking about a community breakdown with so many lost children? What word would you describe? How would you describe the impact? If you had to summarize it in 2 or 3 words, what words would you choose to describe the impact on the wider community or the group?
Deliberate infliction on Uyghurs' life of condition. That's what I can say, because those family members were ripped apart when children were taken away, parents were arrested, family was destroyed. When the family were destroyed, whole society, life of condition of Uyghurs are destroyed. So that's what I can say.
We're talking about family tragedies and a community destruction.
Yes.
And just linked to that, the parents themselves use words like their children are in concentration camps. Some have written, noted to their children, the children are in Chinese orphanage camps, children's orphanage camps. I wonder if you have a precise understanding of the difference between the formal terms that the state is using. We have boarding schools, and we know we have evidence already of the increase in numbers of boarding schools, and we have references to orphanages. So I would like to ask you, from your understanding of the language of Uyghur language, and also the language of the state, the Mandarin language, whether these words are clear-cut or whether people are using them interchangeably, whether sometimes a family might refer to an orphanage and then the next time to a boarding school. Are families and communities differentiating, and is the state differentiating between orphanages and boarding schools? And if the state is differentiating, what do you understand the differences to be in reality?
A boarding school and the orphanage camps are different. The orphanage camps were kids were taken when their parents were arrested and when they were not in school age. The most of them from baby to 7 years, 12 years. There is a 14, 16 years old kids too in orphanage camps, but those kids are parents were arrested. Some of them in some area, these kids can access to the school in the daytime in boarding school, but they have to come back to the orphanage camp and at night if their parents were arrested. And in those boarding schools, it's mandatory. Every Uyghur kids in school age has to go. For example, the girl was released from the orphanage camp, Nurbiye's daughter, eldest daughter. She was in, I think, grade 4 when she was taken to the orphanage camp, and she could not access to the school. They didn't send her school. When she was released, she was become 14, and they sent her to grade 7 in the boarding school. So her mom said she has extreme difficulty to catch up the classes because she missed 3 years in orphanage camps. That's how they work. And I don't think that Uyghur parents are mixed up boarding school and orphanage camps, because orphanage camps, both of them are, the similarity is both of them are forced. Okay, there is no voluntary. I didn't see any voluntarily kids were sent to those places, because the boarding school, even maybe some parents want to send their kids, but they don't want to separate their kids from them such a long time. These kids can only visit their parents 2 weeks at once, only Sunday, and they have no time to communicate with their parents. And especially in the villages, the old parents were sent to a farm, to the village field to work, and all day they don't come back at noon. Even Sunday they have to work. Even the kids come back to home on Sunday, they can't see the kids. And some women from the forced labor camp, she got a chance to see her children, to once go back to her home. But when she come, the kids were not allowed to come, because in 2 weeks of time she's going to come. So she still couldn't see her children her time. So she has to wait again. So this is how it works.
Okay, so I just want to repeat one thing that you said. I've understood, I think, what you said, but I just want to clarify for everyone. When a child is in an orphanage camp or an orphanage, that child doesn't have access to trained teachers or organized lessons at all, in your understanding?
I think in my data right now that I have collected in among these 62 data, some kids access, for example, the 4 kids whose parents in Italy, they access the boarding school in daytime because their age is 14, 16, 12. But they have to go back to the orphanage camp at night. But now they are disappeared from that school too. So maybe they are not accessing the school.
Okay.
Right now they're totally disappeared. And some kids, still they can't access. I already give you one example. She is 11 years old. She's grade 4, but she didn't access the school. And when she was released, then she was sent to this boarding school so she can access.
Okay,
But she was grade 7.
So some children are in the orphanage without lessons, and some children are going from the orphanage to the boarding school and then back to the orphanage at night.
I have to do more. I have to do more research about that because I'm just doing this research, and then because this children was the 4 kids who accessed the boarding school while they are in orphanage camp. I am heavily suspect because their parents in Italy. That's why they access maybe. But now these kids are missing too. The contacts was looking for from their contacts from the boarding school, but they still could not access. So that's mean they're not in the school too. Before they were in the boarding school and at night in an orphanage camp. So it's very complicated and this is needed more research.
Okay, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, that was very interesting. Can I just ask 2 things really? One is, I'm still incredibly worried about their psychological makeup after the trauma that they've suffered. So is there any, do they get any help from that? Because clearly they have been separated from their parents. And the second one is, because they've been now going for a few years, there must be some that are leaving at the older age. What happens to them? Because although they now speak Mandarin, they're still Uyghur.
Yes, these kids, even though they speak Mandarin, Chinese language, this is not only speaking Mandarin. They do brainwashing in these orphanage camps and the boarding schools and teaching from the baby that I love Xi Jinping, this is my country, I am a Chinese, my hair is black, my eye color is black, even though they have brown eye color like Uyghurs, like many Uyghurs, or green eye colors. So they were completely brainwashed to transform it into Han Chinese. But we can't see right now how many the children was not grow up, and I don't have any data that any children were released and over 18 released from the orphanage camp and become adult is what happened to him. But I am thinking, I believe that even those kids was released from there, they can't be Uyghur. Because we already know that those girls was released, even they were very young, released to her mother, that 11 and 14 years old. They just doesn't have any connection with their mother. They couldn't close to their mother. They don't want to talk to their mother. So that's mean even these children was released, they can't contribute to their own community. And when the older Uyghurs are died, these children become Han Chinese, not only Mandarin speaking Uyghurs, they become Han Chinese. This is going to destroy the Uyghur nation.
Just to follow up, I mean, in a way, they're going to have a great crisis in identity, because although they speak Mandarin, they will never be considered as Chinese because they look different. And you may speak Mandarin, but still look different, therefore you won't do that well, because the Uyghurs are almost, as people say, second-class citizens.
This is, I'm wondering too, we will see what's going to happen when these kids grow up. And these kids, even though they were treated, they were brainwashed and they forced to say that they were Chinese. They are Chinese, not the Uyghur. And because we know that it's brainwashing and a lot of propaganda there. But still these kids gonna remember their roots or not, we don't know. Because this was, remember the derogatory words, break the lineage, break the origin, break the connection. That was really well applied to these orphanage camps. They don't allow these kids to see their parents, so connection was cut. And then they don't want them to practice their religion, eat halal food, or speak in Uyghur language, access their culture. So They break their origin and break their lineage too. They can't see parents, they can't see the communities, anything related to them. No one can visit them, and they are high fenced in prison style camps. So how many years they gonna stay there, stay like this? And they might gonna hate their own background, origins, completely want to get out from their origins, become totally Han Chinese, or still they will remember their origin. We don't know. So what kind of identity crisis they're going to go through needs more research when there is a that happen.
Thank you very much. I think that's all with this witness, Mr. Sabi. So thank you very much, Ms. Turdush, for coming again to help us and for giving so much information and with such clarity and enthusiasm. That's the end of your testimony. Thank you.